Okay.
You can admit now.
Perfect. So I think we're live on YouTube. So hello everybody joining us on YouTube. We're just going to let everybody in who is here with us in the Zoom room. Okay, perfect. Great. And I will hit record for this session as well. So welcome back those of you who are joining us. Welcome back those of you who are joining us in the Zoom room. We've had an amazing morning so far, starting with all of those brilliant discussions about breaking the bias in the masterclass this morning, followed by some really powerful group coaching. And now we are moving into the third and final part of our day, which is our discussion with our panelists. So we are very, very lucky to be joined by two incredible ladies this afternoon. We've got lovely Angel, and I will introduce her in a second. And then we've got Anita Fagora coming in at 12:40. So yeah, absolutely fine for you to be off camera while Angel's speaking, and there will be an opportunity for you to ask any questions that you want to afterwards. So Angel Ashcroft, how do I begin to introduce her? Angel has been a good friend of mine over the course of many years. Our children are at school together, and we've been together since they were babies. But Angel has an incredibly rich story to tell today about the many different roles that she plays, about her background as a woman in engineering, her passion for getting girls into engineering as well as those hats that she has in engineering. Angel is also mother of two beautiful children and business owner. She's a Tropic ambassador as well. So Angel, I hope that serves as a great introduction. Thank you so much for being with us today.
Oh, thanks, Sarah. Thanks, Rebecca. I've been an engineer now for 22 years, or I've either in engineering or working in the construction sector. So I'd say probably I wouldn't have pitched myself as a typical engineer when I was a child, when I was growing up. I was always very interested in STEM subjects, in science and in maths. And engineering is probably something that I fell into. And probably by falling into it, what I'd say is that it really helped me grow as a person. It helped me to become more confident, to speak up for myself, stand up for myself. I was probably quite timid as a child. And yeah, so it's something that's like kind of really helped me. And I think sort of working in engineering over the years, I mean, I did 5 years as a structural engineer, and then I moved into project management, and I went purely into the railways. So worked on things like railway renewals and stuff like that, a lot of physical site work, dealing with a lot of guys on site that I wouldn't have normally done previously, and then basically moved more into project management, went back into engineering for a bit, and actually my career then kind of probably took a bit of I wouldn't say halt, but it changed for a bit, because I got married, I had children. And unfortunately, when I was pregnant with my second child, I was diagnosed with aggressive breast cancer, and I had to take a break from work. And since then, I've been doing sort of taking up contracts here and there, just in the area of engineering management, design management, and also project management. But also, I think that time, as hard and difficult as it was, it really gave me a chance to think about what I really wanted to get out of life, what I really want to get out of my career. And one thing that I'm really passionate about is, helping future generations, but also helping girls who might be interested in engineering and science fields. And, I think there's some really interesting statistics out there. So in the UK, about 12.3% of all engineers are women in the UK. And we have about 21.8% of women working in the sector altogether. So that would include like cost managers, project managers, planners, everyone. But as far as education is concerned, we know that, this is from the latest statistics, 46% of girls between the 11 to 14 age category would consider a career in engineering, compared to 70.3% of boys. And then when you get to the 14 to 16 age bracket, 42% of girls would consider that career, compared to 66% of boys. But there's a slight dip, but actually it's still comparable. But then when you get into the like A-level stages, 16 to 18-year-old bracket, only 25.4% girls would consider a career in engineering, compared to 51.9% of boys. And that gap widens quite a bit. And I've noticed this a little bit as well. I mean, I haven't got statistics on it, but I go every year in Science Week to go and help out in my kids' school, and I do Science Week. And what I've noticed over the years is that, in reception years, in year 1, year 2, the girls are pretty much taking the lead. They're really interested in what I have to say, what I have to present. They're really interested in getting their hands dirty, and they have that explorative mind on like wanting to get into the experiments and figuring out how things work. And then by the time you get to year 5, year 6, the girls tend to take more of a back seat in the class, and then the boys kind of take over. So I'm really intrigued myself as to find out what happens in that time in between, like years 3, 4. What happens for that switch to take place? So yeah, that's something that's always kind of interested me, and I think definitely having a boy and a girl myself, I see how their minds work quite differently. And I think definitely as well, the other thing about STEM subjects is that people always categorize them as having to be a certain type of person, to be, logical mind, to be good at maths, to be good at, physics and all that sort of stuff. But I read a really interesting book called Citizen Scientists. And basically, it's just talk about how anybody who has an interest in finding out about how the world works, finding out about new things, investigating, anybody can be a scientist, really. And in fact, some of my really good friends who didn't study science and engineering for their degree has come out and ended up working in the sectors and become a director in TfL, first female director. So basically, I think it's making it possible, and also communicating to everybody that you don't have to be just one type of character. And in fact, I think in business, they've also noticed that, from research, gender diverse companies who employ more women in this sort of industry are 25% more likely to achieve above average profitability, because it's good to have that diversity in there. And, I've had times in the past where I've had a construction manager working for me, very typical construction manager. And he'd be like, at the end of the project, he'd be like, I've never worked for a woman before. I've never worked for a woman. And he said, but he goes, it's pleasantly surprising. He goes, you still get the job done, but you get it done in a very different way. So yeah, that's really nice to hear. So yeah.
Oh, Angel, it's fascinating. Thank you so much for everything you shared. And my head is kind of like is kind of spinning. It's really, really interesting. So one of the things that intrigues me is you said that in engineering, 12.3% of the overall workforce is women. Did I get that right?
Yeah, so 12.3% of all engineers in the UK are women. Yeah. So if you calculate all the in the engineering field, only 12.3% are women.
And so you said, obviously, there's like financial reasons to make that change, because you just said that companies who have a diverse workforce are like 25%, sorry, are like to make 25%
more likely to get above average profitability. Yeah.
So there's a financial implication, but I'm just wondering, from your viewpoint, what's the wider implication of having that stat of only 12.3% of the work of engineers being women? What's the wider implication for society in having that gender imbalance?
Well, for me, I feel like a lot of it starts from education, from school. And I think the way we teach sciences is very silo. You do your chemistry, you do your maths, you do your biology, you do your physics, and so forth. Whereas I feel like, as someone who has worked in the scientific field, and it's not just engineering, I think it's all scientific fields, I think definitely it should be taken as a more holistic approach. It's anyone who has a curiosity to find out more, to find out about how we can do things differently, or anyone who has an interest in basically recording information and like pattern analysis and saying, well, is there a pattern here? Can things be changed? So anyone who has that curious mind, I think, should definitely be told, you have an opportunity to go into a science field here. You don't have to just, do your physics and your maths and your biology and chemistry. And in reality, I think in the workplace, what you learn is that you learn that it takes more than one person to deliver a project. It takes more than one person to do what you need to do. And it takes a whole load of different knowledge, but different skill sets. And just because you've kind of gone into one area, it doesn't mean you can't widen your skill set and basically do more, basically.
That's so interesting, isn't it? So I guess there's two things there then. Starting with education, what do we do with our girls to address that drop off in girls' confidence, which you said, and I've heard this somewhere else actually as well. I think they reckon around the age of about 9, there's a really, maybe between 7 and 9, there's a really significant drop off in girls and confidence. And those stats that you shared with us show how that goes from being 46%, I think you said, of girls at 11 to 14 want to be engineers, dropping right off as they approach that sort of 16 to 18 age gap. So that work around confidence with girls, but also that messaging that it's not just one type of person who can be an engineer, which again, I guess if I'm honest, it probably challenges my existing biases about what an engineer should look like or should be like. But you're absolutely right, because of course we know, like, a diverse workforce and a successful workforce is composed of many different personality types with many different skills and attributes, and that's what makes a successful workforce. That's so interesting.
Yeah. And even for me, I think in work, I've noticed quite, I was lucky enough to have had quite a strong female mentor who helped me through chartership and everything like that. But again, in the workplace, working in the sector, quite often I find, not all women, but some women, I almost feel like they feel like they have to change the way they behave at work in order to fit into that kind of stereotype. And really, I'm not, I don't think that's the best way to go about it. Some of the women, I think they believe they have to be more aggressive in order to meet up with their male peers. And I really don't think that is the case at all. I think it's really important to stay true to who you are, and to do things the way that you would do it. And I think, that saying, there's more than one way to do something. And even for engineers, actually, you say, if you give an engineer a problem, if you give 10 engineers, a problem, you'll get 10 different answers. Because even among men, if they're male engineers, they'll solve the problem differently. So definitely, I think being a woman in engineering, you should definitely stay true to who you are. So
I love that. And I think that's very true of a lot of male-dominated industries and businesses, isn't it? That sometimes women, or certainly traditionally women, have felt that they've had to sort of conform and almost step into that role and behave almost as a man would behave. But what you're saying is diversity is to be celebrated, and actually staying true to our values as well is something really important.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
And Angel, I know that you've got a real passion for this work with girls, particularly in education, and you've got a vision, haven't you, of your STEM evolution project and what you would like to create in that area. So could I just ask you to share a little bit more about that with us?
Yeah. Well, I mean, definitely, I think what I would like, I mean, definitely since I graduated in 2000, and, you know, been a member of the Institution of Civil Engineers, we've always talked about getting more people into this career path. There's always been a concern about not enough people wanting to come into this career path, probably because it doesn't pay as well as the other sort of careers that you have out there. However, I'd say probably in the time that I've been working, it's changed significantly, and you find that actually it is quite a well-paid career these days. But also, I think there's the other thing they talk about quite a lot is about getting more girls into engineering. And again, I think with that, I think it really starts at education. So what I want to do is I want to sort of like work more with the schools, work more with professional bodies, work more with like corporations, because I think the corporations and the professional bodies, they talk a lot about, you know, wanting to get more girls into the workforce, wanting to get more people in general into this career path. But I see that a lot of them work a lot mainly with university students, but I feel that that change has to be made from a much younger age, from the primary age. So I think they have a responsibility really to do more like collaboration with primary schools to get the girls interested, you know, catch them when they're young, basically. And the other thing that I was also thinking about is, again, as I said, it's all to do with like feeding the curious mind. So I think it's basically feeding at that age, feeding them like the information about the world around them and exploring the world around them. One of the people that I love most is like Maddie Moat on CBeebies. I don't know if you've ever seen.
Yeah.
She does the Who Do You Know? And
Yeah.
I love the way she gets the whole science subjects across, because she talks about it in terms of a global scale. You know, this is what happens all around the world. But she's quite passionate about sustainability, about protecting our planet. And she gives the way she delivers it is a very nice overview for children to understand. And it's not just like, here is the theory of physics, here is the theory of like Newton's laws, which a lot of young people probably don't relate to.
No.
So it's about teaching them to be curious about the world around them, and then obviously embedding the whole theory side later on. So yeah.
Really interesting, Angel. Yeah, thank you.
So one of the things that I'm interested about that, sorry, is
no, I was just going to invite anybody listening just to say we've got a few minutes left. So if you do have any questions for Angel, do free to drop into the chat box and we'll make sure that we address those. Sorry, Angel, go on, carry on.
Yeah, so I said one of the things that I'm investigating or looking into at the moment surrounding that is the virtual reality world.
Yeah.
Because we know that kids learn from the environment around them. And if you can deliver a really good set of learning packages in the science fields, but in a virtual reality world, I think it will really help them sort of like understand and be curious and want to go into those fields a bit more.
That's really interesting, and you're right, that would definitely foster that sense of curiosity, wouldn't it, as well? Really, really exciting. And I think one thing that we haven't covered actually today, bringing it back to International Women's Day and the theme of breaking the bias, is where you have come up against bias in your experience as an engineer. Where's that happened for you?
Well, I mean, speaking generically, as I said, I'm a chartered member of the Institute of Civil Engineers. Now, that professional body was started in 1818, and they had their first elected president in 1820, Thomas Telford. So some of you might have heard of him, the famous Telford Bridge. And since then, we've had 157 elected presidents, but only 2 of them have been female. So that's just over 1% female president in the area that's representing my area of work. And then in terms of work, I mean, I've faced situations where I've had sort of like, as a graduate, well, starting as a student, it used to be the day that I would walk into a site office to have a meeting, and I'd literally be pushed out of the way because some lad, foreman or whoever, was trying to get into the room to rip down all the pornography material off the walls before I get in there. I mean, it didn't really bother me, but I mean, I think that has changed quite a lot because you wouldn't really get that happening now. And then as a graduate, I'd say, you know, I've had unwanted advances from my male colleagues before, and probably male colleagues who were more senior than me, and should have known better. I have been in positions where I felt that I've been pushed into a corner, or not been able to progress my career or experience in a particular department or sector because of unwanted advances, and I don't really want to kick up a fuss. I've also had been actually queried about promotions and whether or not I might be right for promotion because of the fact that I might go and have children. That's another thing that I face. And then as I sort of progressed and developed more confidence working as a project manager, even then I sort of worked on contracts where the principal contractor, the project manager on the principal contractor side, who's meant to be my counterpart really to delivering the project, I've noticed that they've sort of been bypassing me in communications, commercial communications. And when I confronted them about why that was, their response was very much to do with, well, you know, I've never had to deal with a young person, especially a female, in your position before, and I don't really know how to talk to you. So they're the sort of things that you come across, and it is surprising to come across them in this day and age. But then at the same time, I think it also builds you up. It builds you up as to how to respond to these situations, how to deal with it, basically.
Really interesting, Angel. And that's one of the things that we were talking about this morning, about these different types of bias. So as you said, you've experienced that kind of maternity bias where there's been assumptions made about who you are in the workplace because you want to have children, and also the affinity bias where people are naturally drawn to people like them, and then when we encounter anybody who in whatever way is different, whether that's age or gender or whatever, that affinity bias, I don't know if I know how to communicate with you, and challenging that sort of disconnect and that kind of bias. So interesting. Just looking in the chat here, Angel, we've got a couple of comments from Mandy sharing her reflection that your daughter loved science, especially chemistry, when she had a hugely experiential teacher, and now another teacher who has no interest at all. So that relates to what you were saying about that fostering that curiosity. And lots of us, Mandy, as well, very interested in this question. What is happening for our girls around the age of 9 for them to step back from their interests?
Yeah, I think I mean, definitely for my daughter, she's at that age now, she's sort of pre-teens, and I think hormones do probably play a big part with girls, with their confidence. I think it does, but yeah, so my girl's gone from someone who's very chatty and bubbly to becoming a bit withdrawn and quiet. But ultimately, she's still the same person that she was. And I know that when she gets over there, she will still be the same person, coming at the other end. Yeah. And as I said, I was a very quiet and timid girl. And I didn't dare to speak up in class. I didn't really dare to I just focused on my studies. And for me, that was the thing, focusing on my studies, making sure that I was the best in whatever I was doing, finding a little niche for myself. So I went through those years probably quite quiet, but still kind of concentrating and focusing on myself. And then at the end, when I came out through the other end, it's you then kind of can establish yourself a bit more and be able to speak up and sort of go into but it's I suppose in those periods when the girls are going through those years, it's making sure that you maintain their interest. And I always say to my daughter, don't care about what other people are doing in your class, just focus on what you're doing, maintain your interest. And with every single civils graduate or project management graduate that I mentor, I always say to them, keep your eyes and ears open, because it's not just about what you're doing, it's about what other people's doing, it's about what the world is doing. And, you know, if you keep your eyes and ears open, it opens up so many more opportunities for you.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. It's about so supporting our girls, letting them know that there's no kind of one way that an engineer, you know, no one kind of type of person that can be an engineer, and talking to them and encouraging their interests as they go through those kind of preteen into the teen years is something that was
Yeah.
really beneficial as well. Brilliant, Angel. Thank you so much. Now, if there are any of us listening today who want to connect with you, maybe talk to you more about engineering or talk to you more about girls in STEM or your STEM project, I know we've got some educators here as well today. What's the best way for them to connect with you?
Oh gosh. Well, the only links I've got at the moment is to do with my Tropic skincare business. So you can find me on Facebook, Tropic Skincare with Angel, or I'm on Instagram, so it's Angel_Tropic. My Instagram, I tend to cover a little bit more on my engineering side of work as well. So yeah, you can direct message me through there. So yeah.
Perfect. I've put that. So if we look at Angel up, so either on Facebook or Instagram, Tropic Skincare with Angel. Angel, thank you so much. It's been such a delight to listen to you and to listen to your brilliant insights and wisdom today. And thank you so much for everything you've shared with